Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special edition of the Youth Perspective. Yours truly, Keshagen and Jamal, in your company. And we've been in a series of sorts where we've been looking at different aspects, different components of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And ladies and gentlemen, you have heard many different conversations, many different phases, ladies and gentlemen. But this episode, we get to talk about the music, ladies and gentlemen, and we have joining us in studio retired Chief Superintendent Sylvester George. And of course, he was the Director of Music from December 1991 to May 2001, the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Youth Perspective. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, sir. It's so great to have you joining us on this show. And as I said, we've been doing a series where we've been looking at the Royal Bahamas Police Force, which has been in existence for quite some time. And we've been digging through the different decades, talking about particular things. But we want to talk about the music. When did you first get started in the Royal Bahamas Police Force?
Well, I was recruited in 1964 for the Royal Bahamas Police Force Band. Mm-hmm. And upon joining, the band just had about 20 members back then.
Yeah.
Superintendent Dennis Morgan was the director of music. And his deputy was Sergeant Clark. Now, the band has quite an interesting history. Dating back, I think it's 1884. So you had a series of bandmasters and directors leading up to the present director of music, which is Mr. Selden Adderley. I succeeded Dunstan Babb as director. Mr. Babb succeeded Dennis Morgan, who was director of music at the time when I joined the band in 1964. Yes. Upon joining the band, I've met, and having met all the members and so on, they helped me to assimilate in the Bahamian culture. The band back then was more appealing to more expatriates that were in the public service because of the band's repertoire of English folk songs and marches and more classics than what it plays right now. Mm-hmm. The role I played then, I observed what the response back then. And really there weren't many Bahamians coming to the functions the band performed for, the Red Cross Fair, and which was annual. The Red Cross Fair was an annual event, and the boat show, car shows sponsored by the Kiwanis Club. Mm-hmm. I think Mr. Idris Reed, he was very instrumental in that, and the band also played quite a role in playing for the official opening of even this ZNS. Okay. Station here. Mm-hmm. Her Majesty the Queen, I think she came to officially open the Radio Bahamas, this station. Mm-hmm. Lots of the hotels, all the major projects. The police band was very much involved in playing for the official opening ceremony, housing projects, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. So the police band played quite a significant role in the development. And also, especially in Ministry of Tourism, utilize the police band as a tool to advertise the Bahamas as a tourism destination.
And did you always see yourself wanting to be a part of the band? Was that something that you grew up with that?
Well, in Trinidad, I learned music. I was in youth bands. I was in the Ambulance Brigade band. I was in a dance band, and in the school band. Mm-hmm. And I learned to play several instruments, including drums, trombone, euphonium. some of which are classical instruments, some of which are dance band instruments. So when I graduated from my school, I entered trade school, as an apprentice. And not only music did I learn, I learned other trade skills, such as woodwork or carpentry, tailoring, and a bit of electrical skills. But I worked for a while doing tailoring in garment factories, right? And also on weekends, I played music, trombone, in dance bands. The euphonium, on Sundays I would play classics with the euphonium and the youth bands at botanical gardens and so on. So I was quite busy, and a lot of the others, my peers, of course. At some point in our teens, we had discussions as to what we want to do moving forward in our future. And many of us decided, well, we'll go to New York, go to Canada, England. What attracted us was many of the neon light cities, those bright light cities. Well, when I said to my peers that I decided to come to the Bahamas, they want to know where the Bahamas is. They want to know more about the Bahamas because the Bahamas was unheard of, in that regard.
Yes, sir.
And I did research in the Bahamas, and of course, well, stamp collection was popular back then, so the Bahamas was prominent on stamps.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about the Bahamas. I learned about the fishing tournament in Bimini, and I learned that the Bahamas was a tourism destination, a major tourism destination from way back then, 1964.
1964, okay.
Right. And, of course, what was common with all the Caribbean islands then, you had a lot of the citizens of the various countries, especially the men, who were attracted to the project, picking fruits and so on in Florida, Georgia, and those different places, cotton and fruits, and they were attracted to traveling to the U.S. Of course, that was like an opportunity for most of the people in the Caribbean back then to travel there, because some of them, majority of them, saved them money and furthered their education and improved their standard of life and living, Well, I decided to travel to the Bahamas, and I kept my peers in touch with what's happening, what the Bahamas is like. And when I came here, well, of course, I met the director of music, Morgan, and all his assistants and all the band members I was introduced to. I played quite a significant role eventually. Two other persons recruited with myself. Adderley, 471. My number was 532. And Elson Briggs from Guyana. Well, I see you.
Yeah, you only had three numbers.
Yeah, you have to understand back then.
Yeah.
The force only had about 500. The force was in the 500s.
Ah, okay.
So the number that I was assigned to was 532. Right? And you had three other guys from Guyana. Well, we all were in the 500s. Right? So the force had 500 members back then. They were in the 500s. And of course, the band only had about 21 persons, small band. But before that, the band was in the teens. And the band, of course, back then, more so, used to perform police duties, both policing and music, right? It was known more or less as a part-time band.
Okay.
More when the band is not engaged, the members of the band will perform police duties.
Okay.
Mr. Fred Seymour, he was a sergeant then. He was bandmaster, and I'm talking about way back in the 50s. Yeah, he was bandmaster.
So you would have a bandmaster and a director?
Well, the bandmaster is the one that really, you have bandmaster and you have director. The bandmaster is the one that does get the band ready and prepare the band with the day-to-day work regarding the music and the engagements and all of that. The director of music is the one that's overall in charge and so on, right? But the way the band is structured, you have the director of music, you have the deputy director of music, and I'm talking about the upgrade model, the upgraded model, right? So you have the director of music, the deputy director of music, or assistant director of music, and then you have a series of conductors, which might be in the rank of inspectors or even sergeants, right? Yeah. But the band was very, as I said, very instrumental in the promotion of tourism. That's why the band did a lot of traveling abroad to American cities, European cities, and even in the Caribbean.
Okay. And all that would bring attention back to the Bahamas.
Well, it bring a lot of tourists.
Yeah, a lot of tourists.
Of revenue.
Right, yes, sir. and the band under your tenure, under your tutelage, what type of music did you play? Because I know you said.
I'm glad you asked that.
Sure.
Okay, when I first came, I met the band playing strictly classical music and folk song music and so on. The band never played, not on the Morgan, hardly played calypsos. So when I came, I did a setup. I observed what was going on and how the audience responded to the band. I assessed the type of audience the band would have. And what I did, I went and arranged music. I studied the Bahamian culture, the type of music. And back then you had music like Mr. Mackie Dog Bite Me and all that type of music. Even before Eddie Minnis, his type of music. I did a lot of Eddie Minnis compositions. So what I would do, I would arrange music for the band.
Okay.
To add to the repertoire, which was mostly English and classics. To make the band more appealing to a wider cross-section of audiences, locally and abroad.
Okay.
And so I would mostly arrange Bahamian music and Caribbean music, calypsos and so on, that were of the hits of that period. And as I embark on arranging that music and brought it, and Morgan, he will conduct it, the band became more appealing to a wider cross-section of audiences, locally and abroad.
Because of the varied change.
Okay.
So
that was a significant change, right? And over a period, of course, I arranged over about 800, I did over 800 arrangements. Also,
wow,
the band was utilized for police talent shows and other fundraising events, right? The fundraising, the typical fundraising event for the police force back then, was boat rides from here to Paradise Island and the other islands nearby. But under Commissioner B.K. Bonomi, he took another look at the force in terms of fundraising, and he and his assistants like Deputy Commissioner Mason, Alonzo Butler at the time was Assistant Commissioner, and Assistant Commissioner Moyer, they all came up with the idea of engaging the band to coordinate and to do talent shows, gospel and other talent shows and stuff, and classical concerts. So every year we would do classical concerts at Easter time and Christmas time.
And that's open to the public?
Open to the public,
right.
Well, yeah. Well, the Beat Retreat was free. open to the public. But the classical concerts, Easter time and Christmas time, that was held at the Le Cabaret, Paradise Island, or at some other hotel.
Okay.
And of course, there was a fee for that, admission fee.
Okay.
And you have to dress a certain way.
And so even back then, you had the beat retreat, the annual beat retreat.
You had the beat retreat back then. The beat retreat, that came about under Dennis Morgan, Superintendent Dennis Morgan. That was an idea of his. The beat retreat and guard changing.
The guard changing, okay.
Yeah. So the beat retreat has always been a big tourist attraction.
Right.
Right. And of course, guard changing too at Government House.
At Government House, okay.
Just like how you have in England, in the UK, changing guard at Buckingham Palace. So that was a big attraction here as well. When the cruise ships come in, the part of the tour, the taxis, they will bring the tourists to Government House at 10 o'clock in the morning to watch and enjoy the guard changing ceremony.
Okay.
I have some photos. There's a pity that it's only we're not doing the TV.
Yeah, just radio.
TV interview. But anyway, so that remains a very big hit. We were also instrumental, incidentally, of training the Defense Force officers to prepare them to form the band.
Okay.
And also because eventually they took over the guard changing
by Government
House. Right. So the Defense Force Band played a very instrumental role as well. We trained a lot of the Defense Force officers, the members of the police band, during my time. Right. That's when the Defense Force was under Commander Swingley, and Smith, Commodore Smith, and Scavala.
Scavala, okay.
Yeah. Now, the training has always been an integral part of the police band. During my time, I ensure that the officers were trained. The quality of training had involved a program that I sat and actually arranged with the music department of the College of the Bahamas. And I had provided funds from the police band's annual budget to cover the cost of 1 dozen per year annually to be trained and be certified professionally.
Yes, sir.
Which will enable the members of the police band to sit in any band worldwide and play their instrument, which I'm certain that you heard the saying that music is an international language. Haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So all the police band members that passed through that training and were certified, they were able to sit in any band. Whenever we travel to promote the Bahamas, there are other bands that we played along with. And they were able to just sit and play, whether it's music regarding the Jewish culture, Havana Kila. You know that tune? Da 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 da
yes,
da 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 da. You know, I wish I had my instrument here.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it widens their ability.
Yes,
enhance their ability to can perform anywhere in the world. Even in Trinidad, Barbados. When the band went Barbados, that was another good experience. We went Barbados for the, I think that was in 1982 or 84, for the Carifta. That's the festival. Yeah, you have sports, you have trade, and you have Carifta. It's three different.
Carifesta?
Carifesta.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. It was another occasion. The band took part at Carifesta. When you went there, the band was a big hit. The band became a big hit.
Yeah.
I think Tom Adams was the prime minister at the time.
Okay.
And we played in the stadium. and we were well received. Every day in the newspapers, we made headlines.
What would you say now to younger persons who are listening to us right now? They are interested in joining not just the Royal Bahamas Police Force, but they also want to be a part of the band. What do they need to do now, preparing themselves now to enter?
Okay. They can, in school, if they're in school, in a school band, that's good. Try and study and prepare to take some of those Royal School or Trinity School of Music exams. That will help tremendously and get them ready to join either the Defense or Police Force bands.
Yes.
Grade 5, grade 6, 7, or they could do as many of those exams as possible. That would be my advice.
Yes, sir.
And becoming a member of the police force on the whole, particularly the band, it's a good way to serve your country.
Yes, sir.
Good way to serve your country.
Yes, sir.
You get to travel to every island. You get to see the island life and how your country, how your country is developing and so on. The Bahamas is one of the most beautiful countries in the world in that, and I believe, having come from a one landmass country, the Bahamas as a archipelagic country, one might regard that as a disadvantage, but I see it as an advantage.
Advantage, yeah.
An advantage in that, variety. Every island is different.
Yes, yes.
You go to Eleuthera. Eleuthera is so different from the islands in the south.
Yes, sir.
The culture. Cat Island is known for Rick and Scrape and the food.
Yes.
And, the different aspects of the culture. Another important aspect is containing viruses. If a virus break out in one of the islands, you could contain it before it spread. As compared to one land mass,
yes,
it spreads quite easily.
Right.
You see, and it's good also for tourism.
Yes.
Not all tourists coming to the Bahamas may want to come to an island with plenty nightclub and all of that. Some want to go to some of the islands where they do bird watching and just to enjoy the beauty.
Yes.
Lay off on the beach, read a book or somewhere at the whole, things like that. Each, it's quite a variety for the different tourists.
Yes, sir.
You see? But, go ahead.
Now, as we get ready to wrap up, we have a few more minutes left.
Wrap up already?
Is there any information about the band that you wanted to plug in here that maybe you didn't get to plug in yet from your notes? Any information? Before we get your closing comments.
Well, I will again recommend to any young person, especially those who are in 12th or 10th grade in high school, and they are involved with the music. Not only music, in most disciplines, because the force is like a university. Anything related to computer science, forensics, music, sports, and all of that. There's an area in the force that they can join. There's a department in the force they can join. And while in the force, you could continue to study and upgrade yourself, your skills and all of that, right? And you'll as you mature in the job in the force, you'll realize what a wise decision you would have made. Your parents who brought you up, they will be proud of you. And you will have quite an influence on...
Go ahead.
Will have quite an influence on a whole lot of your peers.
Yes, sir.
They too will want to join the force.
Yeah.
So I will highly recommend the police force, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, and the Defense Force as well.
Yes, sir.
the discipline that those two organizations offer, and the structure, a structured life, you know, that's very valuable in order for you to serve and help to build your country.
Yes, sir. Now, as we get ready to wrap up, any closing comments you want to leave?
Oh, yes, indeed. I would like to thank all the members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force Band who served during my time for their support.
Yes.
I did not, all what was accomplished, I did not do it alone. I did it with the help and support of all of them. All the director of music dating back from, well, you had Morgan, you had Bob, Dunstan Bob, especially Dunstan Bob. I was his deputy, and I eventually succeeded him. He did a fantastic job, and I succeeded him. Mr. Valentine Farquharson, he was Superintendent Bob's deputy. Valentine Farquharson, I'd like to give him a shout out. I hope he's okay.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander Thompson, Assistant Superintendent Alexander Thompson was my deputy when I first was promoted to Superintendent, to Director of Music of the Police Band back in 1991. He was my deputy. So I would like to thank all of them. Also, I was involved in training a whole lot of those who came after. I mean, they are able to carry on the tradition of maintaining that high standard.
Yes.
That the people look forward to. You know, the police band and the Defense Force band performed recently at Bay Street for the beach retreat.
Yes, sir.
And you saw how the crowd
yes,
responded.
Sir. Yes, sir, we did. Yes, sir.
So, and I am happy to see the aspect of community involvement.
Yes, sir.
Very much so. Community involvement. Commissioner Clayton Fernanda is doing a fantastic job here. Commissioner Clayton Fernanda and his assistants, his top management team.
Yes, sir.
And the force. May God continue to bless them and keep them safe while they carry out their duty, you know, in keeping the citizens of the country safe.
Yes, sir.
Doing all they can to keep the citizens of the country safe. And to continue with the community policing program. That's a very good program. Very good program.
Okay.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Keith Mason, former Deputy Commissioner of Police. Also former Deputy Commissioner Wilton Strawn. And Paul Farquharson, Commissioner of Police. Mr. Paul Farquharson. Chief Superintendent, former Chief Superintendent Rodney Burrows. They're too numerous for me to mention,
yes, sir.
But to all of them, they played a role in helping to mold me and guide me along during my years, especially persons like Mr. Paul Farquharson, Commissioner, John Roll, who is in Exuma.
Right.
He was Deputy Commissioner. Mr. Alan Gibson, well, he passed on. May God rest his soul. There's a whole lot I could say. Sorry that your program is so short. I could go all day,
yes,
all
sir.
night.
I understand. Well, we thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the show. And we definitely will have you back so we can talk some more.
Have me back on TV or something. You see, I bring all this paraphernalia and stuff. I can't even display them on the radio.
Yes, sir. I understand. And ladies and gentlemen,
I'd like to thank Mr. Assistant Superintendent Ramsey for organizing this.
Yes.
Yeah, I thank him from the bottom of my heart. Yeah,
definitely.
And I do wish him many more promotions, a bright future.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for joining us on this edition of The Youth Perspective, where we've been shining the light on the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We have had many guests, and on this show, we have had retired Chief Superintendent Sylvester George.
I'd like to close by a shout out to my dear wife, Angela George. She's the one that, when I first met her, that really caused me to stay in the Bahamas, because when I came here, my plan was not necessarily to stay here. I probably would have moved on to the States or elsewhere like some of my peers back in Trinidad did, and I might have gone to join them.
Right.
I'm still in touch with a few of them.
Right.
Some of them in England, some in Canada, some in different areas of the U.S.
Right.
And so, having met my wife, one of the most beautiful women of the Bahamas, I happen to change my mind and remain in the Bahamas. Right? So,
thank you.
I'm just giving her a shout out.
Sure.
Angela George. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you so much. And you heard the voice of retired Chief Superintendent Sylvester George, Director of Music for the Royal Bahamas Police Force from December 1991 to May 2001. Ladies and gentlemen, continue to enjoy your evening and continue to enjoy the Youth Perspective. We thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next show.
It's a new dance around. We call it the policeman dance. Well, the pump on in the house. Everybody knows what to do. A little reggae, soca, and script, and the calypso too. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in their town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in their town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Come on now, come on, go with me. It's peace time, let's go Bahamas. When the marching round hit the town, everybody gather round. The sweet music flow, and watch the drum major show. He put the mist to the ground, with the sun by his side. All over the road they slide. Then I heard one lady shout, policeman dance, all around. Policeman dance, in their town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Policeman dance, all around. Policeman dance, in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Let's go. Give it to me. I know a boy named Tim. He had no discipline, just doing what he will. Till he learned the policeman dance. He put the hands on top of his head, then he bend them legs. When they cuff him, he come up slow. Everybody let yourself go. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Let's go. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Let's go! Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Policeman dance all around. Policeman dance in the town. Policeman dance, keep the peace in the community. Woo! Sweet but hey.